Ladies and gentlemen, I bid you good morning, good evening, good afternoon, maybe even good night, depending upon the time of the day that you are listening to this. Let's cut to the chase. Since we started this, we had, I'm not sure of the exact number, maybe 400 million messages around the reflections of these approaches, adaptive and otherwise, in real life. So we thought, what best to do than just show you guys exactly where it is that they make their appearances. So this will be observations from real life, from movies, from TV, from comic books, from the news, from this, from wildlife, from David Attenborough documentaries, from anything else that becomes particularly relevant by the conversations that we have with you guys. We'll show you where these approaches are and how valuable they can be once you spot them. Because much like anything, you can make a change to it once you become aware of it.
You guys are pros. The best.
Right? And that's really the key. If something is buried so deep, we need to bring it out. Right? So, JD, any words of wisdom before we jump straight in to the first example?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of people evolve in life in a multitude of different ways. One of my favorite ways that I've grown and evolved and learned and received an education, believe it or not, is actually not through formal schooling or even reading books or anything like that, but it's watching movies. I've always had a connection to movies and stories as being and character development of certain individuals within a storyline to really act as a living metaphor for me, to take on that character and how they think and how they operate in the world and the skills they possess in order for me to glean something meaningful for me in my own life. And so when I was coming up with the adaptive approaches, it originally started by me focusing on and paying attention to wildlife documentaries. And that's really where the beginnings of it kind of began to seed itself into a formal model, into a formal framework and system. But it really landed when I was watching the movie we're going to be unpacking today. And that's because it's one of my favorite movies ever. I've watched it dozens of times.
Debbie Does Dallas.
And it's...
Oh, sorry.
What? No. That's the next podcast we'll be putting out, and the next commentary we'll be putting out. That is the X-rated version. Today we are doing PG, maybe PG-13. And so, we're good. So what it was for me was, it's serious in that it's a crime they're committing, but the way that they create the characters, the way that they create the storyline, the plot line, and all the rest of the movie is by nature funny. And for some strange reason, I don't know what it is about that, but fun and play allows things to land inside of me in a more meaningful way. And so I hope that everybody enjoys these commentaries and the rest of the stuff these videos that we'll be putting together from now ad infinitum, ad nauseum, for the rest of the time that we'll be talking about it. Add whatever else. And so let's get into it.
Let's do it. Here we go.
Yeah, Ortega here.
Mr. Ortega, this is Vice Principal Meckler.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid so. We've had another incident with Manny and Ms. Kelso.
And I would argue, right, there is plenty there. That was like...
Yes.
4 seconds already. 4 seconds already. And one of the approaches, if you've seen the film, you know what's coming anyway. But if you haven't seen the film, one of the approaches has yet to properly be revealed. At this particular juncture, be diplomatic in my language. And this is the important part with observational work and the approaches themselves. Unless you broaden your knowledge and your understanding of them, you're not going to even notice that this kind of stuff could, big word, could pop up to affect your day, working a security position, or, making any phone calls you want to from a janitor's closet, if that is so what it is that you want to do with your day.
So I'm wondering what approach you're already seeing, because I'm seeing the beginnings of distraction.
Yes.
With a shapeshift.
Yeah.
And a blend.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because the three of them are actually operating as if they're somebody else that they're not.
That's it.
Was a shapeshift, but they're setting up a distraction.
Yeah.
To pull this security guard's attention in a very specific way out of the context that he's currently operating in. So they're taking his mind away from the situation and the setting, and thus the role he's playing and the job he's playing in that moment. So they're already pulling him away.
Yes.
And by the time he's bought in on it, he doesn't even realize he's a part of something.
Yeah, and like that's the key, isn't it? If you're gonna properly deliver a shapeshift, it's either got to be very well practiced or very authentic. You know, if George is on the phone, I'm saying that like we're all friends. Yeah, me and my old mate George. If he's on the phone going, your child son, your son has bitten the on the leg. Yeah, on the leg. It's gone. It's done. The whole thing's ironed out. So in that one delivery, not only do you get an understanding for their collective experience, but you also get an understanding for their collective control of where things need to go. This isn't the first time those three approaches have come together. This might be the first time that those approaches have delivered that particular thing. But this isn't the first time that those approaches have been delivered to distract somebody in that moment as a result of the similar kind of play. Let's watch on.
It was the leg this time. Need somebody to come down and pick him up.
My wife can't.
I'm sorry, sir. Your wife, we haven't been able to hold up. We've left messages.
Yo, buddy. Do me a favor. Cover my post for half an hour.
Okay. If you're untrained, you won't see it. It's a bind. George, my mate George, and the rest of the squad are basically laying a trap.
Oh yeah.
In the bind. And the bind is your child or your job. It's your child or your job. And that's the bind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's forcing the security guard to choose.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he tries to do is he tries to scoot out the side. He actually tries to flow.
Yeah.
And what he's trying to do is saying, well, what about my wife? So he's trying to find somebody else that can free him from the bind that they're putting him. It's almost like George knew that was coming, because if you go back and rewatch the scene again, George starts talking before he even finishes saying, what about my wife?
Yeah.
So George is now applying pressure to the bind to not give the security guard any opportunity to think.
Mm.
He wants him to react. He wants him to do a reflex. And that reflex is your son is always more important than your job. And we do not want him thinking creatively at all. So we are going to apply not just emotional pressure coming from that bind of the child versus job, but also time. Gotta go. So their tempo is quick. Love that bind. It's also really evil. It's also really evil.
It inherently is. And one of the important parts of a successful bind, when it's being what's a diplomatic word, puppeteered, maybe, is the timing, right? If they're moving at that particular pace, if by the time that the call has come through and they're not at that particular stage, Brad has walked past the desk. He's not thinking about him anymore. Right, he's got to be either dead center or right there. Look up, oh, boom, there's an idea. Present it in those particular circumstances, right? So the key part of that particular practice is knowing how to make the call, when to make the call, the speed that you deliver your words at, and importantly with Brad as well. The successful part of the bind, I keep saying Brad and George, like no,
our old friends.
Oh, friends, I just want to meet Brad Pitt. I mean, that would be fun. Internet, help me. Anyway, the successful part of this particular bind is the authenticity of the stroll, right? It's the blending of Brad's character, right? And it's if you've ever read, I mean, you and anyone else, it's Samuel Rosenberg's Naked is the Best Disguise. It's a bit of a weird book as he goes off a kind of a Freudian ledge at some particular stage. But one of the things that you can take from it is the way that somebody connects to a disguise can be done without any appendages, without any costume. And watch me transform from some beardy weirdo online talking about the approaches to a teacher right before your eyes. Done. Right.
What I really love is sequencing and timing is astounding. Their sequencing and timing is astounding.
100%.
The masters of the shapeshift.
100%.
He does look like a casual security guard who's just kind of getting to the end of his shift and just exhausted. He doesn't make eye contact. He's got his head down. You know what I mean? And the perfect timing of him saying, "What about my wife?" George Clooney saying, "Nope, we're not getting a hold of her." And then suddenly my saving grace, my other option to get me out of this bind appears.
That's it.
Perfect.
That's it. Here we go.
Come on, man. Help me out. My kid just bit the lunch lady.
Yeah.
All right, man. I owe you one, all right?
Oops, scooting up. He starts to speed up a little. He's like, "Shit, we got away with it. Let's go."
And that's the whole thing. Blink, and it's done. Blink, and it's gone. The one argument I would make is the ducking heads that come out of the closet. There's some kind of signaling that goes on in that particular region, but the fact that Brad Pitt knew enough about the character that when the security guard said, "My kid bit the lunch lady again," to go, "Really?" You know, to add in that kind of playful step that would be half of the course of a bunch of people hanging out in a stressful job all day. There is that kind of a camaraderie and joke. So it's these subtle little nuances that really make the whole blend, bind, shapeshift, everything come together in perfect cohesion almost.
And what I really enjoy is that the distraction is maintained throughout the whole thing, because when he comes in and says, my kid bit the lunch lady again, he has to say, "Really?" in order to keep the distraction towards the kid alive. You know, it's genius. And then what I really, really enjoy, which of course a true professional would never do this, is as he's walking away from him, he kind of gets a little giddy up and he's like, "Oh shit, that worked. I gotta get in there and do the thing." And then, it's like, everybody else would be more patient and say, "Okay, I'm going to maintain my character all the way through this entire thing." But I love that there's these little nuanced moments of where you see them break character.
Yeah.
From the shapeshift.
Yeah. I mean, exactly right. Right. So what is our bind that we are putting you in at this particular stage, dear, sweet, wonderful viewer? Do we want you to just start obsessively watching movies? I mean, there are worse ways to spend your time, but we want you to be more aware of the implications of this material, right? So yes, this is a heist movie, but if you think about the grander concepts of how it's being deployed here and where it borrows on into real life, this is social engineering, right? Granted, in Oceans, it's social engineering for a bit more of a nefarious property, but it's still social engineering all the same. If you've ever walked into a supermarket and then walked out and gone, "Why did I buy that?" Congratulations, you've just been victim of a shapeshift and a bind that appeal to your particular approach at that particular stage. Well done, right? The more inherently evil versions of this are the distractions around what it is that you are not always fearful of, but wary of, right? And this is something that honey trappers make perfect use of. This is something that pickpocket groups make perfect use of. This is something that online scammers make perfect use of. There was blending and distraction aren't just movie tricks. They're happening every day in boardrooms, on phones, even at your office coffee machine. In 2024, a UK engineering firm lost £20 million. An employee thought they were on a video call with senior executives, but the faces and voices were deep fakes. The criminals didn't hack the system, they hacked the expectation. That's shapeshift and blend in action. Phone scams work the same way. Fake IRS agents, fake immigration officials, over 50,000 victims. They were told, pay now or face arrest. Fear and urgency distract, and the logic shuts down. That's how hundreds of millions vanished. And then there's physical infiltration. A penetration tester walked into a UK office, grabbed a coffee, plugged into the network, and nobody questioned him. Why? He looked like he belonged. That's blending. Confidence and context create invisibility. Attackers also hijack emotion. One viral awareness clip showed a caller with a baby crying in the background. People rushed to help, gave out information. The sound of distress distracted them from asking the obvious. Is this real? These aren't just scams, they're psychology turned against us. When someone looks like they belong or makes you feel you don't have time to think, you're already in the trap. Happened to my mum, of all people, I don't know, like 18 months ago, something like that. Someone called her up, pretending to be her bank, claiming that she had been hacked and that she was at risk of losing all of her money, and nearly walked away with close to £10,000 off her. You know, so these kinds of everyday distractions, if you're not aware of the possibility, somebody saying, JD, your bank's been hacked. What? I must do everything that I need to. Presentation of a position of power. This person can help me. We're back into Milgram, and the whole thing connects it up. So awareness breeds the notion of change. I wonder if we did a podcast on that recently.
God, I love it when you self-promote. I'm just kidding. So it's the big thing for me is that I would imagine that when there's something that happens when you watch a movie. When you watch a movie, there's this thing called the suspension of disbelief. The reason we actually want to show you all where these approaches show up in real life, in the real world, is to show you that you really should not suspend your disbelief in certain moments. And if you do suspend your disbelief in certain moments, it can lead to real consequences that are not good for anything that you want for yourself, for your life, for your family, for your friends, for your business, and for anything else that you're involved in. And so our plan is to use grandiose real world examples so that you actually have the ability to spot it in more nuanced and subtle moments for yourself and for your life, so that you have an upper hand, an edge on noticing when these things are occurring, so that you can break your own pattern, your own program, and show up to the moment in a different way. To be, dare I say it, tactically evolved. Right? But by intention and by purpose and by choice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So with that in mind, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, if you have gotten anything out of today's video, we want to hear from you. Right? So drop a little comment about your main takeaway, maybe where it is that you've seen distracts and binds arise. And if it is that you feel like going that extra mile of showing your appreciation for our endeavor, just click on the subscribe button. It's totally free. And in today's climate, that's always a benefit for something to be free, and you get all of this out of it. What a glorious position to be in. And there is the bind for you all to walk through in those particular circumstances. So with that in mind, folks, we'll love you and leave you, and we'll see you again next time for another one. Take it easy.